This is the South End Connector first public meeting, and you can see the agenda for tonight on the screen. We will start tonight just with a really quick overview of the Zoom functions that we'll be using for this meeting, and then we'll get introduced to the project. So I'm going to just go through some really basic features, and then we'll do formal introductions right after that, just so everybody is on the same page in terms of how to use this program. So everyone, right now I'm sharing my screen, but what you should see is a Zoom screen in front of you. And if you look to the lower bottom left corner of your screen, you'll see the mute function. It's a little microphone icon. The default setting for this meeting is that we're going to keep everyone muted to just minimize background noise, but you can unmute yourself by clicking on the microphone icon when you want to speak, especially later on during the question and answer section. There's also a little start-stop video function with the video camera here, which you can click on if you want to turn your camera on or off. A little bit later in the meeting, we're going to have a question and answer part, and there's a couple of different ways to participate in that. One is to click on the participants button that you see at the bottom of your screen here. And what that'll do is bring up a window on the side of your screen, on the right-hand side that you see over to the right here, with a list of everyone's name in the meeting. If you go to the bottom of that screen, there's a little function where you can click to virtually raise your hand, and then that will indicate to us that you want to ask a question. Alternatively, if you go back to the bottom of the screen here, you can see a button for the chat function. And if you click on that, you can just type in any question and we will read that aloud and answer the questions. The other function I should point out here is the speaker view versus gallery view. So what you're seeing in front of you right now is called speaker view, where you get a little thumbnail image of everyone who's involved in the meeting. And if you want to hit this and switch over to speaker view, then you get just a picture of the person who's speaking, much larger. So you can toggle back and forth between those things based on your own preference. The other useful feature is when someone's sharing a screen like I am right now, there's a little button here that you can use to resize the screen so that you can see more or less of the videos of participants. Again, just a kind of preference thing. And then finally, if you want to rename yourself, for instance, if you share this Zoom account with someone else in your household, or if you want to add pronouns to your name or anything like that, if you hover over your Zoom window, your Zoom picture, three little dots will come up in a blue box. If you click on that, you'll get an option to rename yourself. And you can hit that button and then just type in whatever name you want to use for this meeting. And we do want to remind anyone, if you are signed in on your phone for audio and then on another device, like a laptop or an iPad for video, please enter into the chat your name and the last 4 digits of your phone number, just so that we can make sure to keep your audio and video together during the breakout sessions when we arrange those later tonight, so that you don't get separated into 2 different rooms. Okay. And that's the introduction for Zoom tonight. I'm going to hand it over to Lauren Alpert and Yasmin Robinson to introduce this meeting.
Hi, this is Lauren Alpert. I'm the principal planner with the City of Albany's Department of Planning and Development. And I just want to thank everyone for joining and signing in for the Zoom call this evening. This is a really exciting opportunity to reimagine this space under I-787 in the South End. And that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. So brainstorming and sharing ideas on what this space can be for the community and for the South End. So with that, I'll kick it over back to Marie. Well, we can do some introductions. So on the project team for the City of Albany is myself, Lauren Alpert, and we also have Yasmin Robinson, the Deputy Director of Planning. And we've been working with Creighton Manning Engineering and the Landing Studio. So I'll give them an opportunity to introduce themselves and talk a little bit about the project. Thank you, Maria.
Thanks. Tony, do you want to introduce Creighton Manning's work on this project?
Sure. So my name is Tony Christian from Creighton Manning. We are a civil engineering firm based inside of Albany. We worked on the feasibility study with the city and part of the project team there. We were also the lead design engineer working hand in hand with the city in order to design the South End connector that you see out there today. This project is going to keep it moving forward.
Thanks, Tony. Okay. So my name is Marie-Law Adams. I run Landing Studio, which is an urban design and architecture practice with my partner, Dan, who's listening on this call, Gavin Zeitz, who you'll see on this meeting a little bit later, and Ryan Gagnabin, also on this call. I also teach urban design at MIT out here in Boston, and we just briefly wanted to introduce the kind of work that we do at Landing Studio and why we're involved in this project to start out tonight. So we specialize in helping transform infrastructure spaces like highway overpasses or industrial districts to work better for the communities that live around them. This is a before picture of a recent project that we worked on in Boston. And our projects often involve creating better physical access and connectivity for folks on foot or on bikes, like with the pathway and boardwalk that you can see in this picture, which is something that the South End Connector project has already done with the phase 1 piece that Tony was just talking about. We find that areas near highways and industrial districts often have very little tree cover and green space, which heightens the impacts of climate change, like flooding from storms and from urban heat island effect. These pictures here show the demolition of an oil tank farm that we helped turn into a public park, where some of those issues are at play. So in these projects, we look for ways to bring in more tree cover and plants for shade and to help storm drainage, and to design for the human scale by including places to sit and rest, and activities to invite people into the spaces that are often underused. This grass amphitheater used to be an oil tank, and it was repurposed to become a place for community theater and gathering. These structures here are former roofs of oil tanks that now create a playground for kids. And sometimes in our work, it just involves using lighting as a way of transforming how a space looks or feels. So we're really excited to start thinking about ways to help activate and transform the South End Connector in Albany. And so I wanted to start tonight by talking through what we have planned for this meeting. There's 3 different parts. The first is I will share some basic information about the project, including the schedule, the project area with some pictures, and some initial brainstorming ideas that we can consider. At the end of that, we're going to open it up for your questions. So we'll ask you to hold on to any of those questions for a few minutes until that time. And then in the second part of the meeting, we're going to break up into small groups so that you can share your own impressions of the South End Connector area and brainstorm your ideas for the project. And then finally, in the last part of the meeting, we're going to return to the main meeting group and report back some ideas that we all discussed in those small group breakout sessions. So this is the overall project schedule, and as you can see on the left, we've just started. We're in the first community engagement phase of the process, where we're trying to reach out and develop a design concept based on what we hear from you. Once we have an initial design concept, we're going to develop it in more detail during the winter of 2020-2021. And then once that phase is complete, there will be permitting and bidding process before construction starts. And our goal for that is to happen next summer. So we also do have a link here for you to go to, which is the project website. It's the southendconnector.weebly.com, so that you can stay up to date with the latest schedule and other project updates. And then this is a more detailed schedule of this current phase of the community engagement process, where we're looking to translate what we hear in terms of ideas and into a vision for the space. The process itself is centered around 3 public meetings, the first of which is happening tonight. And I just wanted to give you an overview of what we hope to achieve in each of the meetings. So tonight, the goal is to hear impressions and ideas about the South End Connector during the small group discussions that we're going to start in a little bit. Our team will be taking notes to document all of the small group discussions, and we will review and analyze all of that for the next meeting that will be in October. During the October meeting in the middle, we're going to share 2 or 3 design options that take into consideration the ideas that we heard tonight. And again, we will have small group discussions in that meeting to discuss what you like, what you dislike, and what might be missing from those design concepts. And then we'll develop a single design to share in the 3rd meeting that incorporates what we hear to the greatest extent possible in consideration of project constraints and the budget. And then we'll have a small group discussions once more to discuss what's working, what's not working, and use that to refine a final design concept that will go into the development phase over the winter. So we just want to spend a little bit of time now getting oriented with the project area and the new South End Connector, which might be new for some people on this call, but I think for a lot of people it's a familiar area. So what we're looking at right now is an aerial photograph of the South End Connector, which is highlighted in green, running underneath the 787 highway bridge. The South End Connector links between the larger trail systems of the Heidelberg-Hudson Rail Trail to the south and the Mohawk-Hudson Bike Trail to the north. You can see the Hudson River at the top of the slide, with some industrial businesses along the river and the highway, which then turns into the Port of Albany as you move south, and the Ezra Prentice homes, which are a little more than half a mile to the south of the project area. Then next to 787, you have the edge of the Pastures neighborhood and the South End neighborhood, and you can see the Steamboat Square homes that are located along Green Street, the Giffen Memorial Elementary School, and a little bit of Pearl Street over here in the corner, which is more of a local business corridor. So now we're going to focus on the area that's the South End Connector itself on the ground and walk from north to south with some recent photographs of how the new trail looks after it was finished this summer. So here we're starting at the north end of the connector, where it opens a bit up on the side by the river. And then as we move through here, it's a more kind of tunnel-like condition where the railroad passes over Broadway, which could be a really interesting opportunity for some murals or special lighting in this area. Then you can see as you start heading down the connector, there's actually quite a bit of light that gets in between the highway ramps. And then eventually the trail moves out from underneath the highway onto Church Street just for a little bit. And then it bends back under the highway, and there's some pretty dramatic moments where you can pass under and through all of the really tall bridge piers. This is where the connector project area ends at Route 32 to Pearl Street, which can be seen as a kind of gateway area that could potentially invite people into the space. And then another kind of similar gateway area is around Broadway and Church Street, which leads to that tunnel-like condition that we were looking at earlier with the railroad bridge. You can see in this map here that there's a number of neighborhood streets that kind of dead end along Church Street or into the end to the side of 787 with Ferry, Rensselaer, Bassett, and 4th Street here. And all of these could be seen as another kind of gateway between the South End Connector area and the neighborhood themselves. And that kind of thing makes us think a little bit about the idea of wayfinding signage or maps and arrows and things that help direct people to the South End Connector and show how it connects to other things like parks such as the Corning Preserve and the larger trail networks that are in the area. So if you've been to the South End Connector recently, you'll also see some of these orange construction barrels along the pathway, which are actually the basis for future light posts to illuminate the trail, which will help the trail feel safer and more usable at the nighttime and early morning hours. And just having this electrical power supply already there is a really great opportunity to also think about more transformative or ornamental lighting, which can be done in a lot of different ways. In this picture, it's done, the light is focused on the underside of the bridge surface with different colors. And in this example, you're looking at color changing column up lighting, which could be really dramatic in some of those spaces that we were just looking at with the really tall bridge piers. So another way that our team has been thinking that the space could be transformed is to think about bringing in color through paint with murals. This one that we see in the picture here features a lot of really abstract graphics, but there's also the opportunity to use murals as a way to showcase local stories and the people of the community. This is a mural alongside a highway here in Boston, where the mural artist has worked for years with local community members, and each year adds more and more to this mural, showing the work that the community is doing to restore a local river ecosystem. We've also heard from some initial conversations with local businesses and development stakeholders that there could be an interest in pop-up events like food trucks that create more economic development opportunities in the area. So we can look at ways to make sure that that's possible in this space, maybe by making gathering spaces available, creating places for people to sit and eat food, or providing water and power to support the food trucks. And if you've visited the South End Connector, you've probably also noticed that there's a really long chain link fence that runs throughout the whole space, which essentially separates the trail from the railroad tracks to the left. You can see it in this little diagram here with the red outline. And it's unfortunately been pointed out to us, and we've seen on our site walks, that this can be a little bit of an eyesore because the fence tends to collect windswept trash all along it. So this could really be an opportunity, again, to improve the appearance of the space. There's a lot of areas that get quite a bit of light, and we could put trees and vines along the fence. There's also other areas that maybe don't get as much light, but could be used to show printed graphics so that the fence could become something more like an outdoor art gallery that could change over time. The first phase, or another thing that we've noticed along the South End Connector, is that there's some areas of puddling or ponding where drainage from the highway really isn't working properly. And some of these drainage problems were addressed in the first phase of this project. But there could be an opportunity to do more green stormwater infrastructure, which essentially uses plants and special soils to filter pollutants out of stormwater before it enters local waterways like the Hudson River. Which is what you see on the right-hand side of this image here under a highway that we worked on here in Boston. And finally, we just wanted to end with a simple idea of planting trees, which can bring a lot of environmental benefits in terms of helping with storm drainage, creating more shade for comfort as summer temperatures continue to increase, and also helping with air quality. Again, because there's actually just quite a bit of light that gets down between the rampways at the South End Connector. So just to recap, we're in the first phase of this process where we're gathering ideas and working towards a design concept with the goal of getting to construction by next summer. And over the next couple of months, there's going to be several different opportunities to come together and hear your vision for the space and to revisit all of these ideas. And basically what we're going to do now, in a second, we're going to open up for some questions about the project. But before we do that, I just want to go over what we're going to do in the breakout session so you can kind of have that in mind and think about the kind of conversation that we're going to have. So in a few minutes for those sessions, we're going to break out into groups of 5 people or so. And we're really lucky tonight to be joined by a really big team that's helping us facilitate and document all of these conversations. You'll see them on your screen as people who have the name facilitator or note taker next to their names. These are people from Albany Planning and Development. We have planning and geography students from the University at Albany, and a group of architecture students from Northeastern University here in Boston. Each breakout room is going to be asked to discuss 3 questions that you see on the slide here, which just start with really simple introductions. why everyone is here tonight, and then spending some time on an exercise to look at your initial thoughts about the area by completing the sentence. One word I would use to describe this space is blank. Then you'll be asked to share what you'd be most excited to see at the South End Connector. And finally, we're asking that each group decide on one exciting or important idea that they discussed during the breakout session that you want to report back to the main group. So each group will have to choose someone who at the end, when we all come back together, reports something exciting or important that came out of that discussion. So we're going to hear a little bit of everybody's discussion when we all return together at the end. And our team, as I mentioned earlier, is going to be taking notes in each of the breakout rooms to make sure that we do get a chance to hear everything that's said. So even if it's not discussed during the breakout, we'll have the notes and we'll be reading those as we prepare for the next meeting and think about the next steps. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now and open it up for questions. The way that we want to do this is if you have a question, you can use the raise your hand button by choosing, again, participants on the bottom of your screen and then clicking the raise hand icon when that comes up. Or if you'd rather write out your question in the chat, you can hit the chat button at the bottom of your screen and just type directly into it. Ryan Gagnaban from Landing Studio is going to help facilitate the questions, and so he'll call on anyone who is raising their hand or read out anything that comes up in the chat. So I'll just open it up right now.
I think I already see that Hugh has a question, so Hugh, if you want to unmute yourself. I think you might still be muted.
Okay.
Oh. Hugh?
Yeah, I'm there, right?
Okay, we can hear you now.
Okay, good. I was in a different screen, of course, when I was trying to do that. Okay, hi. My name's Hugh Johnson, and yeah, I'm actually calling from Cape May. Not that that makes a big difference, but I've had a little connectivity issue, and I don't know how long I'll be able to stay on this call for a lot of reasons. But anyway, I'm real excited about being on this group. I think you're all talking about great things. But my story is the other trails you talk about, the Corning and the rail trail, have what's called ambassador programs. What they do is they get people who get out there because, let's face it, part of the thing is great. It's wonderful we're putting trees up and paintings, but one of the things we got to realize is that we get glass on this trail. And now what's happening is when trucks go along 787, I've seen it because I was down there a couple times, they spew glass onto the trail. Before the trail, I used to ride on the road there. You couldn't ride on the shoulder. It was completely littered with glass. So I think when we get some things going, we might actually minimize this glass getting on there. But right now, until that happens, we're going to have a glass problem. And the glass is accumulating pretty fast because I've done it 3 times. I've gone there on my own time and dime and cleaned it up. And I can see the glass accumulating from time to time that I've been down there. So what we need is an ambassador program, people to clean litter, mainly the glass. A lady talked about the litter, and that's cool. But the glass is the real deal breaker because glass can give us flats. Yeah. I know I've gotten a few. So I'd like to start an ambassador program. And I don't know whether that's totally germane to this call or not, but that's what I'm trying to do because we have ambassador programs on the rail trail and the Corning trail, and this trail will need it more than both those trails combined because of the increased amount of litter on it.
Thanks, Hugh. That's a great point to hear about too, even just the issue of maintenance in general, but we've taken note about the glass. Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions before we get started with the breakout rooms? Should have mentioned we also have Torsten Fullard from the Albany Housing Authority, who's also a facilitator tonight in addition to planning and development and the Albany students and the Northeastern students. I missed that earlier. Any other questions? Okay, so because I'm not seeing anything come up in the chat and I don't see anyone's hands raised, I think we'll get into the breakout rooms. And let's see, I think, Gavin, we should probably go with 2 rooms based on what I'm seeing from you in terms of how many people we have. So everybody, what will happen right now is you'll get a little dialog box that'll pop up on your screen inviting you to a breakout room. So it'll say, you know, go to breakout room 1 or 2 or something like that. You can click on it. You'll get a little delay, and then you'll pop into a new group that'll be smaller than this one. And you can start your conversations. And then after 30 minutes, we'll return back to this room. And in the meantime, Gavin will be broadcasting some messages to help everyone stay on time. Anyone have any questions about that? Yeah, in Torsen, I see the question. We do have the ability to share a screen as soon as you get into a breakout room. You should be able to do that. Okay.
Shall we go into breakout rooms?
Yeah, Gavin, you've divided, I guess in total, is it 2 rooms or 3 rooms that we have?
I've split up into 2 rooms.
2 rooms, okay. All right, you know what, do you want to re-split out some of our teams so that we actually have 3? I'm sorry, I misspoke. Maybe we do 3 rooms.
Yep.
Okay, it'll just be 1 second before we.
Maria, you want me to split out some people from the note takers and facilitators, or members of public too?
Yeah, you know what? Okay, we have 29. Let's go with groups of pull all the note takers and facilitators into a 3rd room that you don't have for the first 2 or the first 3. So do 6, 6, and 6, let's say, of just non-volunteers, and then open it up for the facilitators and note takers in a final room.
Okay, I'm not fully following that, but I'll just do 3 rooms.
Okay. If there's any questions at all, this is a good time to ask. Or about the process, anything like that.
Okay, we should be good to go.
Great, thank you. All right, so we'll see you in breakout rooms in just a second.
I
I
feel
think
we all
everybody's
went
back
through a
in now.
wormhole or something.
I know. It's definitely different than a real physical breakout room discussion.
Yes.
Well, thank you, everybody. Our group, I can say, at least had a lot of really interesting ideas and has given us a lot to think about. We want to use this last maybe 10 minutes or so of your time to just report back to everybody a highlight from your breakout room. So I think every group should have nominated someone who's going to speak. And Gavin, I think since you have the list of who's where, whatever, maybe you can just MC this, ask people to report back, and we'll go from there.
Sure. Yeah. So if breakout room number 1, who is with Yasmin, wants to start off with some notes about their discussion, that'd be great.
Sure. So my group talked about how signage and art could be really useful and nice under 787, and how signage and art could kind of be one thing. Like there was also an idea of having, you know, some sort of signage that was very artistic that might also have something like a QR code that you could scan with your phone that would bring you to a map of the area or the trail or anything like that. If anyone from my group wants to correct or add to what I'm saying, go ahead. But we talked a lot about art and how important art was, and that there's a lot of space for art, that the art should be diverse. You know, seems like there's kind of unlimited space. So it's not like a place where we have to be, you know, really, you know, making really hard choices. So it seems like it's a place for everyone, you know, and that the art should reflect the community surrounding the trail.
Great.
And
you.
Albany, yeah.
I think we also brought up the fact, I think Angel did, that it may be hard for people to park without knowing where to park, and that's where our signage came in.
Wonderful. Great. Well, with that, I think we'll go on to breakout room number 2 with Lauren.
Yeah, that was us. Hi, my name is Matt. We talked about a couple of things. The highlights were focusing on making it a little bit more like a park with some green space and art and murals, utilizing kind of those the pillars there. Signage as well, including access to the park from the neighborhood. And then I don't think we got into too many details, but ways to kind of use the trail, use the space for community engagement. To engage with the community and to kind of invite people and to, you know, bring in some of the history of the area and kind of share the space in that way. Chime in if I'm missing anything.
Can I add one thing, Zach? This is
Yep.
Hugh.
Yeah, did you want to add something?
I just want to add, you know, maintenance. I guess we'll call it maintenance. Just maintain the
right.
trail, the ambassadorship program. Very important to, I think, to keep things going.
And we talked a lot about the connections and building the connections between the neighborhood and the connector. So making it clear where the entrances are from to the neighborhood and from the path to the neighborhood.
Great. All right. Breakout room number 3 with Torsten and Marie.
Yes, this is Tony on reporting out for the group. We shared a lot of the same topics that were mentioned in the other groups, such as emphasis on safe space, community, family engagement, in terms of the space that could also highlight the history and the history of the South End, utilizing signage through the arts, and there was a lot of emphasis on opportunities to bring food trucks to that area as well. But a lot of good to hear that there were a lot of common things being discussed in other groups. That's a good sign. Good sign.
Great.
If I left anything out, anyone please feel free to join, to chime in.
That's great. And Gavin, that covers all 3 groups, is that right?
Yep, that was all the groups.
Okay. Well, then we did our job very efficiently. This group, everyone was very good with that. I'm going to share my screen and hand it over to Lauren or Yasmin to just close out the meeting. We just have some reminders on next steps and what to look for next with this project.
So I wanted to thank everyone first and foremost for coming out tonight or staying in tonight and joining us on the Zoom call. So things to look forward to. We're going to be doing an October meeting It'll probably be that last week of October that will bring us all back together to kind of review some design concepts. But before that, there'll be other opportunities, if you know anyone that wasn't able to make it tonight, for them to participate and give, some of the feedback like you gave tonight. So on October 3rd, there's going to be a bicycle ride and rodeo at the South End Connector site. October 10th, we're going to be doing a walk with residents at the Steamboat Square community site, doing a community site walk. And then we'll be presenting at the October 27th South End neighborhood meeting. And then stay tuned. This video will be posted of the meeting on the southendconnector.weebly site, and there'll also be a survey posted there. So if you talk to your friends or neighbors and they weren't able to make it tonight, but they are interested in giving feedback, please direct them to the Weebly site and the survey so that we can hear from them as we move forward. So thank you, everyone.
And we just shared some of those links in the chat if anyone wants to take advantage of it. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone, good
Thank
night.
you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Thanks all.
See you
Good
next
night. Be safe.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, Hugh.
Okay, thank you to all of the student support teams too. I know we ended up not having the same groups that we planned on, but we really appreciate you all coming out tonight and hope you got some good public meeting experience. Everyone's different, but it's great to have you.
Yeah, this was certainly a more interesting one in terms of the breakout rooms virtually, but
Yeah.
it was interesting. I liked it.
Yeah, no major technical glitches. No one lost internet connection.
Yeah.
something to be happy about.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, Marie and Tony, I'll reach out and we'll talk soon.
Okay, sounds good.
Good.
All right, good
Thanks,
night.
everybody.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. And Angel and Jayla, I know Dan will follow up with you too.